What's up, YouTube? Team Jugio here at the Anaheim Regionals. We got a deck profile. What do you call it?
I call it the Wu-Wei deck.
Wu-Wei deck. All right, so let's get started. So, how many threatening roars do you run and why?
I currently run 3 threatening roars, and I run them just because they're probably the best option out there for stall right now. You can activate them at any time. You aren't restricted to the standby phase, say it's Thunder Ruler. And just the fact that it prevents attacks, and these are actually in here for Gladiator Beasts, because Gladiator Beasts mainly focus on getting attacks to get their effect. This is why they're in here, not Wabaku or say some other card.
Cool.
Let me show you some other things. This is actually the staple of the deck. It allows me to make up for some of my mistakes while I'm playing. It allows me to function the deck out function of this deck, which is, let me move the cards aside so you'll see them. One moment. Actually, you know what? It's in the side deck. The deck out function of the deck, which operates through Meteor Flare. Meteor Flare, as you already know, is one of those cards nobody uses. When it's in the graveyard, you can choose to get it outside of your graveyard instead of drawing. It's critical to run 2, because if you don't run 2, you can't force your own loop. You have to depend on your opponent to, be ignorant enough to just enter their battle phase so you can scrub it. Scrubbed Raid allows me to get extra draw power by chaining it to Jar of Greed, chaining it to Legacy of Yatagarasu, and it allows me to make up for cards that don't have any value anymore, such as Metal Reflect Slime once it's been hit by Trap Stun. As we all know, it becomes completely useless. Another card is Imperial Custom. I should actually make a point of Imperial Custom and, where is it? Fake Trap. I prefer to run Imperial Custom and Fake Trap over, say, Dark Bribes or 7 Tools because they don't destroy. We have a lot of major cards out there that will specifically negate if they destroy. Samurais, for instance, they can only really negate you with, say, that Talisman card if you destroy. But none of my cards will destroy. None of my cards do damage, so it's more difficult to negate them. Obviously, One Day Peace. I don't really think it needs explanation.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for many months for this card to come out.
A lot of decks. That's really helpful.
Swiss Scarecrow. Swiss Scarecrow, it's actually critical to run this and not Battle Fader. Battle Fader is actually very terrible in this format because of the fact that it needs a summon, and there are so many cards that negate summons. Thunder King Ryo, Solemn Warning, cards that don't even allow you to special summon. So I make sure that my cards are something like Karibo, Swiss Scarecrow, any sort of variant of a card that you can discard. It's much more difficult to negate. So the only kind of problems you really run into are against Gladiator Beast decks or occasionally Fairy decks if they're running Herald of Morn, which is, And you're seeing a few side deck cards against Mystical. Mystical would actually not be in the main deck for this deck at all, because it's a very aggressive card. You don't run very aggro with this deck during your first duel. Neither would you see Solemn Judgment, that would be side deck. A lot of the staples you see in decks are actually side decks for this deck because I can't afford to go all out against someone because they could easily counter some of the aforementioned cards. And Power Duality works splendidly in this deck simply because there aren't any special summons at all. At best, there aren't even really any monsters. The only monster in this deck that I actually do anything with would be, let me see if I can find you. Methion the Time Lord. Methion the Time Lord, I actually use it for its second ability. Yes, I know it can't be destroyed, yes it does damage, but you're never going to win a duel with this deck through damage. Its second ability, which sends it back to the deck, allows you to add cards back to your deck and give yourself more time. So that's actually what I'm using Methion for. It has a lot of the neat effects, it's pretty cool, but if it didn't send itself back to the deck, I probably wouldn't use it because Skill Drain kills it. And that's the other staple card in this deck. If Skill Drain doesn't get out, it can have a bit of trouble. You can stall out with things like Imperial Custom, things like Fake Trap, but Skill Drain has to come out within the first, maybe 4 or 5 turns for it to really be viable. And you can count on Skill Drain coming out in this deck because it's also rather quick. Legacy of Yatagarasu, Power Duality, Upstart, all of them come together to, as well as Accumulate Fortune, which is a card that just works beautiful in this deck because it actually has some chain burn. It has some. It runs cards typical to a chain burn deck, which allows me to actually get it out. And unfortunately, I cannot find it in here, but you already know Accumulate Fortune. Yeah, that's the card you activate chain 4 higher. So all of these cards together allow me to quickly just rifle through my deck, get what I need, and set up a lot fairly quickly. Some of the more technical aspects of this deck are, let's say, you really have to play Imperial Custom first. Let's say if you have both of these on the field, Imperial Custom has to be face up. Because say if you were to activate Imperial Custom, if they activate Imperial Custom response to maybe Heavy Storm, if they activate a spell speed 3 card like Dark Bribe or 7 Tools of the Bandit, you're not going to be able to follow it up with Fake Trap. So you keep this face up on the field, so you have this as backup, just in case, hoping they don't have that third card, well, that spell speed 3 counter.
Yeah.
Of course, you always, one of the other things that's this deck is built off, it's called what I call a triangle. In order to ensure that I don't take damage on a turn, regardless of if my opponent clears my field out or not, I make sure that I have at least one Swiss Scarecrow in my hand, and I make sure that I have these on the field. So, as well as a Threatening Roar. So say I could flip up my Threatening Roar, and if they negate that and somehow get rid of all these, I still have my Swiss Scarecrow. And also, due to the fact that Imperial Custom is on the field, usually at the same time, it forces you to go through multiple destruction cards with Heavy Storm, Viscous Space Typhoon. And most people don't have that early game, and most people will waste those very quickly. But the deck really relies on a mindset of people going too aggressive, people who will play their cards very quickly, fill up their monster spots, fill up their magic trap zones, and they're not actually do anything else after that. And this deck will just sit there. All the effects are activated, so you can't negate them anymore after they've been flipped up.
All right. Well, thank you for your deck profile, and Team Yu-Gi-Oh! Signing out.